So you
Right,
want the
right.
innovators to not be bogged down by lots of regulations, etc. But you want to also empower them to, whether it's funding, whether it's policies, etc., to let them run fast and innovate. I no longer need 3 hours a day to write emails, only 1 hour a day, let's say. How have I used the other 2 hours? Does it mean as part of the sales team, I'm meeting my customers more? Well, then there is a big chunk of that is human experts coming in, and that's still needed. But can we save that 30% of that for the human expert to then focus on the 70%? And
Mm.
that's something that's, quality, and it's same in the legal case I talk about.
Hello, team, and welcome to today's conversation. I feel that it's going to be a really interesting one to say the least, because we're going to be speaking about AI. And who doesn't love a good conversation on AI? We're going to look at the profound impact that it's having on industry, on businesses, as well as on the workforce. And we'll discuss the challenges, the successes of integrating AI technologies into our business, look at the influence on the workforce in particular, and the importance of an adoption strategy. And you're going to gain insights into the evolving landscape of AI skills, the role of diversity even in technological success, let's put it that way, and practical advice for both individuals as well as the organization looking to harness AI potential. So here to help us as we delve into the current and the future impact of AI, examining the revolution, I want to say, is that it's creating across every business sector, is our guest and expert in the space, Miss Christina Chen. Christina, welcome to the ET Project.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you for having me here.
It's our pleasure. Now, you're sitting in London, if I'm correct.
Yes, I'm in London, UK.
So, always curious about different countries and their perception around the whole technological space and the advancement. What's the situation in the UK? Is the UK business in general embracing technology, or is there some degree of trepidation?
Yeah, great question, Wayne. There's always a bell curve, I think, in any country, right? There's a spectrum of where individuals or companies sit in terms of how advanced or how much they want to be an early adopter. So that early adopter, mainstream, laggards spectrum. So we see here in the UK as well. If I were to put UK in kind of a global setting, though, I think UK is behind US and China to some extent in terms of jumping onto the innovation, the adoption drive.
Right.
But it may be ahead some of the other countries because we do see businesses, especially some of the ones that are sort of early adopters who are investing in not only innovating, building their own products as a tech company, but also non-technical companies using off-the-shelf solutions, customizing it in different spaces, like in professional service, in legal, in financial services, etc., using that technology to drive productivity, drive creativity, etc. We do see that, but it's always a combination of different conversations around AI anxiety. We talk about here AI anxiety for the workforce, and when companies that has a pretty advanced sort of forward-thinking culture, they also need to be very, very cognizant of how they communicate that to the entire
Mm.
employee base, because not everyone's as forward-thinking, and how do you bring everyone along in the journey is a big topic here.
You, to that point, you were recently part of a review group, I believe, for looking at the UK's AI skills framework. And if timing wise, I have it right, it really was on the back of the economic forum discussions in Davos. Um, what was your feeling coming away from that framework meeting?
Yeah. So that framework meeting is really to bring in people from the industry, like me, who is on the ground working with businesses adopting AI, and what the employers are saying hey, this is the workforce that we need for the future, or for now,
Mm.
and in the short, medium term, really. Um, a few takeaways from me. Number one is adoption is a key word. Everyone talking about adoption, and employers are really looking for that. And what does really adoption really mean from a business perspective? Is really the cross section between business sense and technology or AI understanding, right? So this AI in its AI has been around for a while, so this is not new news, but AI is now touching every worker, every employee. So it used to be probably more in the technology and the tech team or tech companies in the IT
Mm.
division, etc.,
Mm.
where you'll be talking about data scientists, machine learning engineers, and all that. Now it is touching everyone. So there's a whole, group that we sort of put into the frame AI skills framework is working with AI. So you
Right.
actually, if you think about a pyramid, right? So you start with almost living with AI, right? You and I, as consumers, as citizens, we use apps and technologies that have AI in it. How do we, in differentiate deep fake versus not, and getting that awareness? And then you have a level up from living with AI is working with AI, right? So whether you're in sales, marketing, HR, you are starting to interact with AI tools, and you're soon will be expected to leverage those tools to be more productive. And then there's the AI more professionals who are continue to build technologies like the machine learning engineers and data scientists, etc. And then there's a whole leaders space at the top of the pyramid, whether you're leading an AI company, and increasingly you're not leading an AI company, you're leading maybe a sort of industry focused
Mhm.
non-technical company, but how do you lead with the AI technology in your culture, in your sort of processes, etc. So that's what we've been looking at from a UK framework perspective. And it's quite interesting. There's a really healthy debate about how can we bring everyone along with us? So we want the
Mm.
entire workforce to really benefit AI, because that's how you really drive true productivity across the board. But you kind of bring up the common denominator, but also you let the ones that can run
Mm.
fast, right? So you
Right.
want the
Right.
innovators to not be bogged down by lots of regulations, etc. But you want to
Mm.
also empower them to, whether it's funding, whether it's policies, etc., to let them run fast and innovate. It's a
Yeah.
really healthy debate here, and but not letting people fall behind while the rest of the world is moving forward.
It's truly a fascinating topic, and I can imagine, look, visualizing that pyramid, there becomes a blurring of those lines. I would imagine as you move up that pyramid, um, and of course, in the IT space or in the technology space, there's also this logic about failing fast and failing forward, so that you
Mm-hmm.
can keep moving, keep the momentum going. And to your point about the innovators, I can imagine. Um, there has to be some sort of removal of that fear of failure from many of the business sectors. Um, so I can imagine this is a really interesting discussion, debate
It's a
that,
healthy balance. Yeah, it's a
yeah.
balance to be made. Because there, AI, we we're big believers of developing AI responsibly,
Mm.
ethically, and part of organization called She Shapes AI, for example, that really promotes different voices, underrepresented groups, women in particular, contributing to AI. So the models or whatever technology we build is equitable across the board and
Right.
accurate across the board. But just using that as an example is a really interesting, healthy debate of how we can innovate fast with the
Mm.
right kind of guidelines in place and the right level of guidelines in place. And everyone's figuring this out right now. There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we've dipped our toe in the water, so to speak. Let's backtrack a little bit and
Mm.
talk for a moment about your career journey, and then we'll move into the company formation. So, what was your inspiration? What led you to venture into AI?
Right. Well, so many years ago, I was a computer science graduate. So I studied computer science. Um, And even at that time, there was AI in the sense of computer vision,
Yeah.
bioinformatics. We looked at how to use machine learning to really, for example, decode the sequencing of DNAs and RNAs. We used computer vision to look at the security piece, iris recognition when you go through passport control, all of that.
Mhm.
That was always a part of a fascinating subject for me. Fast forward, I've been in tech for 20 plus years, wearing different hats, being an investor, being a software engineer myself, growing businesses, and really just seeing that evolution came, the machine learning, or, they didn't really call it AI that in that case, to what we talk about AI today, or
Yeah.
generative AI today. And it's fascinating because it's touching more, is permeating into industries. It's not
Mm.
just the computer scientist. It's not just a very small group who are building the AI models, building the AI technologies, apps, softwares that is being impacted, and is everyone here. And this is really how sort of I got to where I am today with First AI Group. Is I felt like also wanted to build this company for my younger self. I say I built First AI for the younger Christina coming out of computer science degree, coming out of university. What would I wanted to be at the cutting edge? What did that look like? And now we
Mm.
used our company to bring the younger generation also into AI, so they can be part of this cutting edge as well.
That's really interesting in itself. I mean, if we go back to that period, and
Mm.
by the way, you don't look like you can be old enough to be back that far, but you can tell by my grey hair, I come from the other lineage. But I'm wondering back then, did you have mentors or people that were actually influencing you along this journey at that
Mm.
period?
Very interesting. I've met many mentors, official and unofficial, along the way
Yeah.
that really helped me get to where I am today. If I look back in, there wasn't a structured, I wouldn't say wasn't a structured way to get here. It was by luck, by fate, or you call it. I met people who came from the technical space and really understood where technology was going. For example, one of my advisors still at the company was an old professor of mine from Cambridge University, where I studied, and he's very much in the AI space. So that really influenced my journey here. And also on the business side, entrepreneurs who have been very successful and through mentoring me, investors who have been very successful when I was in my technology investor
Mm.
journey, part of my career. And that's the reason why I thought, okay, I kind of got this by luck or by chance. Is there a way we can do this more systematically, where a lot of people may not have the personal network or family network to get to these people, but give them
Mm.
a platform? If we act as a platform, act as a community, then we can bring some more mentors who um, can influence really someone's career, like change their trajectory, like it did to mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we fast forward then to the company itself, I believe you've just had a name or a branding transition. So it was First AI Talent. Now we've shortened that to First AI.
Yes. Yes. Well, first AI is something that is a catchy name, and we use first AI because really it's about being first. Is we are out there leading our customers. Is all about helping businesses
Mm.
drive adoption, right? We are believers that AI should be accessible to all the organization. It shouldn't be a black box. It shouldn't be a myth. Shouldn't be this really
Yeah,
hard thing. So we want to be first to learn it, to test it out, to build that experiences, and we bring that expertise to all the companies who also want to leverage this technology. So that's where First AI came from.
very good. And when did you start the company?
It was in 2024, last year.
Oh, okay. So it's still quite new. I was wondering whether you've had to pivot at all with all the constant change that goes on with AI, whether you've had to do any pivoting since its
Yeah.
inception. I'm guessing
Yeah,
it's
well, that's it is, I'd say it's an evolution, it's iterations rather than pivoting. That's what I say is you're going with when we first looked into AI, uh in this current form, I mean, as I mentioned, AI has been around for a long time.
yeah,
But how we came about was actually businesses in my previous business, there were companies who asked, hey, we saw ChatGPT came around, different AI technologies come along. As the business owner, as the CEO, I'm starting to realize, hey, I need to build this capability in-house. I need to build this talent pool in-house.
right.
Where are they, right? I not only need AI people, as I said, I need marketers who can use AI technology. I need product managers who knows about AI, etc., and how to build that into our products. So it's a very different way of now doing business and sort of building your workforce and capability. So this is where the gap we realize, because also the kind of the supply of the talent, if you think about sort of the supply and demand, employers are looking for really intersection between AI and all the business function already. And
Right.
then the supply, first of all, is very scarce. Still AI or machine learning in itself, data science is still a fairly small group of supply coming into the job market. But also that cross section between the technology and the business, the intersection, you'd be looking for unicorns to do
Right.
that. So
Yeah.
that's why we spotted that opportunity and really starting to look at, okay, what do employers really want in terms of AI talent? And back to your question about kind of pivoting and going with the market, started with, hey, ChatGPT came along. How do we use prompt engineering? How do we build custom GPTs, etc. To Microsoft came along with Copilot, right? So that's more enterprise
Yeah.
scale. So I'm a big corporate. We're already on Microsoft, 365, using all the
Yeah.
tools. How do we do it in a way that's enterprise grade? It's
Mm.
safe. It's not just somebody trying it on a chat somewhere. How do we integrate in everything we do on Word document, Outlook, emails, etc.? And that's where we are finding the biggest demand right now is enterprises thinking, how do we leverage the existing off-the-shelf solutions that the big tech companies have built out there?
Yeah. And I'm asking myself that very same question at the moment. Before we go too much deeper into that, what is it exactly that First AI is all about? Like what's the purpose behind the company? What is it you provide?
Yeah, great question, Wayne. So First AI is all about making AI accessible to all the organizations, all the business out there. We believe that AI shouldn't be a myth, shouldn't be a black box. So
Yeah.
what we do is we are an AI adoption company. So we
Right.
go into businesses and help them drive adoption. What does that look like? Training your employees, building AI workflows, building your personalized prompts,
Mhm.
building agents that's coming up. So
Yeah.
let me give a live example. So we work with, for example, a very large international, multinational law firm,
Mhm.
right? So across the law firm, we've worked with 18 departments that use Copilot. Microsoft Copilot is the technology
Mhm.
they've chosen to roll it out in so many different ways. For example, we may be sitting down typically with lawyers or knowledge lawyers, and it will be very um, personalized, long, specific prompts to say, how do you get information? For example, knowledge lawyer, how do you get previous cases out? How do you get information out very quickly that on a specific project, on a specific
Mhm.
topic? Or it is all the business operations function. For example, we work with their HR department, say, hey,
Mhm.
did you know you could build these agents? I mean, now people use very loose terms of agents, but use the prompts of agent doesn't really matter the conduit. But you
Right.
can now start to screen five. You can put, compare side by side five top candidates
Mhm.
in a specific, very specialized field quickly in a summary table. That's just a very simple use case. We also help HR, for example, who are not data scientists and all that, to start query their pipeline data, their talent pipeline data, or their diversity inclusion data or employee data very quickly on Excel using natural languages rather than having to learn about, Power BI and data tools. So these are the types of things that we go in to do, basically train everybody so that they can use AI themselves and then build, hey, we know now your workflow, map out your workflow, and then did you know this part is AI-able? And then we'll build that for you. And that just drives time saved and productivity.
So Copilot is really a productivity-based tool, if I understand correctly. I've not used it myself, but I know a lot of it. I was curious, is there any interface or API between Power BI and Copilot?
Yes, there are Power Automate, Power Apps, which allows to automate a lot of things. Power BI is very data specific. There's now ways that you can, again, use natural language to query your data. And
Mm,
Power BI is just a way to bring out the data from the database or link your kind of front end querying to asking the question in a very simple way to the back end where the data sits. Yeah.
yeah. It's it's an interesting area and one that I'm guessing many more people are going to get deeper and deeper into. But I want to circle back to the whole concept of the adoption because I think that's somewhat central to part of the challenge that businesses are facing, as
Mm.
well as central to the success they could be facing. So I want to come back to that. When you're working with your client, and I know this is a very generalized question, but how do you measure success for the companies? So you come
Oh,
in,
this is such a good question. This is, and everyone's figuring it out as we go. Let's be honest here, and even the technology providers, whether that's Microsoft, Google, and OpenAI, etc.
yeah,
There's there are almost two schools of thought. I mean, there are very many different voices here, but if I just want to simplify it down, there are two schools of thought. One is productivity, right? So the simple thing is you write this chat or prompt in the AI term, it gets information out to you faster. You've saved time. You've driven, you have increased your productivity, quote unquote.
mm,
So time saved is what a lot of companies still use to measure. There's another school of thought to say, right, okay, time saved is all well and good, but it doesn't drive value to it doesn't make me more money, right? To put it very simply, it doesn't unless the employees have pool shrinks. But there is, the other implication, or do you put a dollar amount or a pound amount or a money amount on the productivity, time saved? And some of the companies will look at not necessarily in that sort of employee saved sense, but how are they used? So the bigger question is how are they using the time saved, right? So
yeah,
I no longer need 3 hours a day to write emails, only 1 hour a day, let's say. How have they used the other 2 hours? Does it mean as part of the sales team, I'm meeting my customers more? That's where the KPIs or the success measures start to see, and that's very departmental or company specific, right? What
yeah,
are their KPIs anyway? Is it going through the candidates faster? Is it meeting my customers more? Is it getting sales proposals out? Is it getting more marketing content out? That's more nuanced, and people then can put a more tangible value amount on it. There's, going back to the first school of thought, which is, around time saved, there's also a
mm,
big drive as to what the messaging is out to the employees.
yes,
If you start to put pound value, dollar, yuan values on it, does it mean they feel like their job's at risk? Is that a good communication out? And that's why also it's two schools of thought, and we will need to see what kind of impacts, what suits the organization,
mm.
that what kind of success metrics they want to set themselves up
It's
for.
always part of the challenge of productivity improvements. I don't
Mhm.
know if you've heard of the Parkinson theory, but essentially, if you've got a pool of time and you can do it shorter, the tendency is for us humans to take that full pool of time to do the same task we could do in a shorter time. And
Yeah.
unless we adjust the goalposts to make people target that shorter amount of time, they will still use their full availability. And that's
Yeah.
part of the struggle we have with productivity, of course. And I can see that challenge. I'm also wondering about the quality aspect. Is there any measure from a quality point of view about, okay, we're saving time through AI, but is there a trade-off within the quality of the output? Is that a concern?
Yeah, well, such a good point, Wayne. In fact, a lot of companies haven't gone that deep into looking at what the right measurement for quality is. But
Mm,
having said that, we do have some specific examples where, um, for example, we work with a very specialized consulting firm. They do environmental service consulting. So think about
mm,
big utility plants, water plants, etc., where very specialized engineers and go consult, look at the plant's, safety, for example, and write
mm,
reports about it and how you make it more safe and compliant. So you think that so there's a lot of human expertise still involved, right? It's not
mm,
just automatically generating some report based on some, a bunch of information and data, right? And you could do that, and you could do that probably for a certain percentage of it. So we're actually looking at some of the AI technology we're working with them is, hey, if you look at the report, probably 30% of that is information filling, right? Name of company, address, etc., or name of client
yeah,
address. So that's well, then there is, a big chunk of that is human experts coming in, and that's still needed. But can we save that 30% of that for the human expert to then focus on the 70%? And
mm,
that's something that's, quality, and it's same in the legal case. I talk about legal is very, very specific in terms of the output, right? It's not just, hey, have you, you got information out there from the internet, you can put their prompts and how they interact with AI. It's extremely precise, and we test it over and over. Some of the instructions is 150 words, 200 words long, right? To get some very, very specific information out. But you always have to check with a human, with a human involved. And this is something that we we talk about a lot, is we believe
mm,
actually it's humans that make AI work rather than
correct.
the other way around. AI is just a tool for
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
You have a process that's called EEE, I think.
Mm.
EEE
Triple
process.
E standard. Yeah.
Yeah, the triple E standard. Does that come into this discussion or is that separate?
Yes, so very much so. So the triple E standards is how we measure our own people. We call the AI adoption managers before they go into clients, right? So the triple E stands for first E, expertise. Do they know do they know their stuff, right? AI, co-pilot specific. Second E is enterprise ready. So we are working in enterprise environment. So a lot around responsible AI, ethical AI, security, compliance, governance, etc. It's very important. And third is empathy. It's all about third E is about empathy is, hey, we are actually the human face of AI, right? We are literally the person who sits next to Sue, next to Tom, right? That helping them. Hey, did you know you can do this on AI? And tell me about how you work every day. And oh, did
Mm,
you know we can do this for you that, takes the boring stuff out of, your daily work or the tedious stuff. That's the
yeah.
human side. And this is how you really drive adoption from the grassroots. So
Mm,
that's where we see it working really well. So there's both a top-down and a bottom-up approach, where the grassroots, you have people walking the floor and be that human face, so you can actually help people to start to change their work habit and start to
right.
use it daily. Yeah.
So it's very much a change process. So you
Mm.
bring in AI to the business, reading some of your material is really about a transformation rather than just adapting AI. And so you have to be able to transform the whole workforce towards leveraging and using it to its maximum. So therefore, for me, as I read it as a novice who's looking in from the outside at AI, it's really looking at that whole change process to make sure that I have change champions, or in this case, AI champions who can work beside the business to help
Mm-hmm.
them really integrate all of the benefits.
Yeah.
Is that what your people are really trying to do?
Yeah, yes. We use the analogy that when the companies say bought an AI tool, right? Whether it's Copilot or ChatGPT Enterprise, etc., it's
Mm,
like giving the employees a Ferrari to drive. So every employee got their Ferrari, right? And everyone thought, oh, I know how to drive. I've been driving my whatever car to work every day. What do you
yeah,
mean that I need a training on driving? What do you
yeah,
mean I need a training on how to write my email with AI, right? I've been writing email every day. Um, but driving a Ferrari is very different. I mean, I'm not a racer, so I wouldn't know, right? Which button to press, etc. So that's what we see a lot is, hey, you just bought as a business, you just
yeah,
bought Ferrari, invested Ferrari for everyone. Let's make sure, let's help them actually drive the mileage out of it by teaching them to do so. And that means to the users is really change. It is changing behavior at work. That's why it's so hard. That's why we
yeah,
look at actually three areas. Is I talked about
yeah.
technical, I talked about business sense, how actually that works in my sales function, my marketing function. And third is change management. It's all about
Mm,
how do you run programs in a way, in a sort of big program in a big organization, you bring everyone along and actually drive usage rather than just blast, switching it on. Hey, you've now got this AI tool, Copilot. There you go. It does need change management for it to really drive ROI.
How agile or adaptable do your people need to be as they come into different industries? Or are you focused on specific industries to try and um, use that as a niche within your business, or do you cover everything?
So we follow where AI or generative AI in this case has the most use cases and most demand right now. So think knowledge workers. So think professional services firms, financial services firms, lawyers, legal firms, investment firms, etc., where knowledge workers that use document a lot, right? Documents and the Office, Microsoft suite. At the same time, their cost is high. Their value to the firms also very high, right? So you want the making helping them to leverage AI technology has the biggest bang for the buck in a way. So these are the areas we're really sort of niching, sort of specialize in. So we have people who very specialized working with investment firms, for example, lawyer legal firms. But even just use, my previous example, I was talking about this legal firm, we works across 18 divisions, right? So within 18, more than 50% of those 18 are business functions, what they call business operations or business services. That would be across most companies, right? You would have, HR, you would have sales, you have marketing, you have finance, etc., where a lot of that can be best practice can be shared across
Yeah.
industries, and then there's specific ones, the
Right.
attorneys and the large lawyers will work differently. Yeah.
Mm. If we look at the individual or the workforce in general, and the development and the skill sets that they need, I'm guessing there's a balance between technical as well as soft skills
From what you employees or our people, you mean?
from the employee perspective as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so from the employee perspective, it's really about how, if I'm doing my day to day, I'm an expert in my area, right? How
Mm,
do I use the tools available to me? AI is just another tool, like the
right,
internet or
right,
my laptop, etc. It's just another
yeah,
tool. But it's very much goes to the growth mindset, talking about personal skills and soft
mm,
skills, to your
mm,
point, Wayne. And we see a big difference of people who really have a growth mindset that, hey, yeah, this is new. This this is new to me. I can learn
mm,
it to, oh, I've always done it this way. I will always do it this way. And that mindset difference does make a big difference to how people reacts on their daily basis with these
Right,
tools.
right. If we look a little bit, polish the crystal ball, so to speak, and look a little bit to the future, I don't want to go
Yeah.
fully to the future just yet, but is there anything emerging from an AI perspective in terms of skill sets that we
Mm.
may need as employees, entrepreneurs, somebody running a business, somebody working in a business? Is there anything that's starting to appear on the horizon that you think would be a useful skill adaptation?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many, I have to say,
Yeah.
because probably 90% of the job roles, job titles don't exist yet today.
Right, right.
The what in 2, 3 years time don't exist yet. Some of the big, I mean, how much time do we have here? But I'll just pick off two or three
Yeah,
came to mind. Obvious ones, agents. So a lot of buzz and kind of hot air, depending on which side of the fence or coin you're on about agents. But just understanding what that means, understanding how that works is will be very relevant for definitely a small percentage of people who will be into AI agent developer roles are very
right.
technical. But understanding that is really important. Second is everything around AI, ethical AI, responsible AI, AI governance. I'm bucketing them into one right now. Just again, as this field evolves,
Mm,
in for big organizations, well, for any organization, but especially big ones, AI can have very, very big impacts externally, right? Whether that's reputational damage, about internally how, how biased or fair maybe your AI
yeah,
model is, AI toys, etc., and how we use it, how we educate employees about it. There's a whole group, a whole, I guess, collection of topics.
mm,
And there's emerging roles, and there are already some companies have AI council, right? Responsible AI council
right,
for how they
right.
use it across the business, and that's very much going to be an area that's needed going forward. These are just two I picked off, but I'm
Yeah,
sure there are 90% of the job titles we don't know yet.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And of course, in let's say even in the last 2 months, we've seen the open source platforms create so much of a stir within DeepSeek, and then I think we had the one from Alibaba. Now we've got Tulu, if that's the
Mhm.
right pronunciation. I mean, I see it as just the cap has been ripped off, or the band-aid's been ripped off, and now the floodgates are open. But where does this take us? Like, from that perspective, where does that take us?
Right. Well, what I was saying when I was reading the news is what a time to be alive, isn't it? To see this
Yeah,
rapid growth, rapid innovation, everyone trying to outdo each other, outsmart each other, and it's fascinating to watch as
yeah,
as people sort of in the space. This it's a classic Moore's law in computer science. There's the Moore's law that every 18 months,
yeah,
uh, you double the whether you make it's semiconductor twice as half the size or twice as fast, etc. So it's
yeah,
the classic Moore's law. And people are building, you can see people are building on top, on sort of standing on the shoulders of each other, right? So we've kind of one step forward, working on specific large language models, and then we now use mix of experts, a specific type of language models.
yeah,
Something else will be, I'm sure something else being worked on right as we speak right now. One thing we can say, who knows where this brings, but one thing we can say is a lot of us are actually beneficiaries of this, right? Is the AI technology as a whole basically is getting more accessible, whether that means cheaper, more open source,
mm,
more easier to use, lighter weight, etc. And it's got to be a good thing for a lot of us.
yeah. To this point, there's always the pro and the con, right? But to this
Mm,
point, how do individuals in the workforce that are not like in your space
mm.
constantly looking at these developments, how do the individuals stay current?
Oh, hard for everyone, not just
Yeah,
if you've got a full-time job doing something else. And I would say, there's a lot of news out there, and AI grabs a lot of news. It's good to know where the general trends are going. If
Right.
this is not your space, I don't think it's necessary to keep up with every news, every development for what you do anyway.
Mm.
It's about knowing. I think it is good, it is useful to know roughly how AI works so that it doesn't feel like a black box to you, for the sort of general employee.
Yeah.
But which LLM is large language models coming on top versus the other is entertaining or is useful to know, but not a must. It's also
No.
really large language models tend to grab a lot of headlines, but there's so much more development going on than just large
Yeah.
language models as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. I was reading somewhere there's something like, well, depending on when you read this, but there was something like 2,000 generative AI tools in the marketplace
Probably
when
more.
you read the article. Is
Yeah,
it more?
different stats. They're probably 20,000. I would 2,000 a day or a month could be coming out, depending how you
Yeah.
define it. Yeah, I think also Meta, for
Yeah.
example, was
Yeah.
forecasting there will be millions, if not billions, of AI agents, in 20, who knows, in the medium term, more agents than humans. Let's see if that's the world we get into.
Now, your company First AI offers training, if I understood correctly, for individuals or for companies
Mhm.
if they want to develop a deeper understanding about AI in particular, but some of the nuances, I guess.
Yes. So training is part of it. We basically do adoption service. So
Okay.
we come in, adoption, AI adoption as a service is how we call it, or on-demand adoption managers. If you're a bigger organization, you want someone in your team to do so. And this is training is very much part of it, but actually a big kind of biggest value creation is companies mapping out their processes so people wouldn't understand AI, as I mentioned, sitting next to the HR person, sitting next to the sales person. Hey, what do your day-to-day look like? What can be done? What with AI? What's AIable? And then let's use technology in this part, which drives the biggest, ROI.
One of the probably the most common question that we're facing, we work with small business as consultants, and what we see is the fear, um, the
Mm.
uncertainty about the directions ahead, when to make that step, and
Mm.
what happens if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Do you have the wherewithal within your organization to address those types of questions for small business as well as for the larger business?
Yeah, yes, yes. Well, so first of all, it's very natural to feel like that. Everyone does, even the ones who taken that leap of faith. You feel like, oh, they've done something that they may know more than me to make that decision. Why, right? It's actually very natural. I think there are two things here. One is practically, yes, we have a whole playbook for example, we have a 10-week adoption program that's
Right.
tried and tested, we can get you from A to B, right? That's so for people who may be doing it, companies who are doing it for the first time, they feel, right, okay, we're getting the best practice here. They know exactly what they're doing. That's number one. Number two is, regardless of that, we always say it's a different mindset. For a business owner, for a CEO, for a CTO, now we live in a time that we can no longer buy a proven solution, AI or not, right?
Yeah.
we've There is a certain element of always going on the journey
Mm.
with the technology, with the solution, with the business model that you're innovating, whatever that is. There's no longer something's been built. I'm the mainstream buyer, the middle 60% of that, and that's complete package and buy it, etc. It does not work anymore. And that's the mindset CEOs or leaders need to be in to be able to take advantage of that new technologies.
And that's a very hard mindset shift, particularly
It
when
is.
you're as great as me, to be able to say, I've established my whole career based on my ability to make the right decision, to take the right
Mhm.
steps. And now technology has basically made that redundant, and I have to learn now how to be flexible, agile, adaptable, to really bring that to the table. And that's part of the fear, I guess, that a lot of leaders
Yes.
are facing. Yeah.
It's very natural, and it's again, it's not only AIs in business everywhere, right? How fast the market is moving, how fast the consumers are moving, our customers are, needs are moving. We see this what we call the barbell technology, barbell personality is for a leader to have simultaneously the optimism that in the medium to long term, we're going in the right direction,
Mm.
to the very short term, being paranoid about risks, about making the right decision, about being responsible for a lot of that short-term challenges. It's hard, don't get me wrong, but those who can have this barbell personality can really lead, is the type of leader that can lead organizations through the fog. Really
Yeah.
is kind of where we are. The whole world is at right now. Is there
Yeah.
is no trodden path that you go exactly, you follow that path, you get there, you get to Rome. But the faith that you will get to Rome, many paths get to Rome, and then they're challenge and accept that there are challenges on the way. There will be investments that be made that don't
Right.
work out well. There will be investment that be made that do work out well, and be okay with that, and also encourage the team to do that. It's hard. Don't get me wrong, it is very hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you or the company engaged in the wider AI community or the industry? Like, how do you interact with your own industry?
Yeah. Well, so we do is the short answer. Yes, we do. Our space is quite interesting that because we basically take AI technologies and we help businesses to apply it really
Yeah.
on the ground, boots on the ground, right? And it's not just strategy, it's not just consulting, actually making it happen. We do see we tend to sit in the ecosystem of where a lot of new technologies coming up, big and small. So whether that's big players like Microsoft, Google,
Mm.
Salesforce, etc., and OpenAI, and smaller ones who come to us and say, "Hey, we've got this new technology. We want our own software SaaS, software as a service. We want to drive more adoption as well," right? And it's all about and people these days, users, they could be buying things but not using it, and that really hurts their, for example, renewals, upsell, etc. So we tend to work in you said in the ecosystem between the technology vendors, what's coming up, and the business side is, okay, what can we buy? What should we,
Right.
and also the talent. So you think about a triangle almost, the people and the business and the technology vendors. These are the three kind of touch points we have in the ecosystem.
We could talk for a long time about this. I'm really fascinated. It's a totally different world for me looking at the future that I'm really fascinated by. If people listen to the conversation, want to connect with you, Christina, or they want to connect with First AI, what's the best way to find you and make that connection?
So we are on firstaigroup.com. So that's our website. For a more interactive, we are on LinkedIn a lot. So if you search for me, Christina Chen, Chen, and First AI, I'll come up. First AI, we have a team. Anybody there, you can reach out to the First AI company page. We also talk about some of the latest, that not only what we're doing, what we see in the market as well. So LinkedIn and websites where you can find us.
Perfect. We'll make sure we put those in the show notes. Really great conversation. I'm fascinated by so much of what's going on. But thank you for sharing your insights, for your experience and everything in the conversation. Much appreciated. All the best with everything for the future, by the way, and even as uncertain as it may be, but all the best with it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me, Wayne. This has been a really a pleasure to speak with you and just to share what we see in the AI world. Thank you for having me on the show.
So what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button below and click on the bell icon so I can pop up in your feed occasionally with a great tip for your ultimate growth.